Hi folks, it's Tim's Project Car here. Here's the center section. I plugged the axles in to ensure that they're the same spline as the differential, and as you see they are. Actually, everything about this quick performance kit has been really nice, I have to say. It's top quality stuff as far as I can see. And it's a standard Ford 9-inch. It looks new. I don't know if this is refurbished, really well refurbished, or brand new, but it looks new to me. I got the short yoke, which I was hoping to make a little bit of room for drive shaft. It appears like I'll still be fabricating a drive shaft, but it did make me a little bit of room. This is the standard pinion support. When I talked to the fellow on the phone, he said I didn't need a heavy-duty one, which I commend them. They're honest there. I've called them like 2 or 3 times, and they answer right away, and they've been very nice each time. These are the 31 spline axles. They're pretty beefy as far as I could see. Of course, I haven't looked into very many axles to know what normal is. It's the 3.7 rear end gear. And it is a clutch type positive traction unit, which is going to be perfect for me. They told me that this will hold 450 horsepower the way I ordered it, and which should be more than plenty for me since I'm running an automatic with 300 horsepower. So unless I'm doing relentless neutral drops, I can't imagine hurting this, or running it out of oil. So there it is. The axles are different lengths. This one's a little bit shorter than that one there, and you can see why from the back, because you can see that this is off center a little bit. So here's the introduction as far as I know, and I'm going to get going on installation. Okay, so here we are installing the studs in the rear end now. I have a little bit of a method to this. This is something I saw on YouTube a while back. I apologize, I can't remember who actually demonstrated this first, but it's not rocket science anyway. So the first thing I do is I take a couple of these washers. They allow things to slip so that the nut's not just grooving into the housing, and also so it's not trying to turn the stud, because we're using a nut to actually a pair of nuts to pull the stud on. Okay, so this lube is Molle engine assembly lube that's left over. You know, I figured use it for something. Since it's open, I'm not going to put it inside an engine, so might as well use it for stuff like this. And so this is pretty easy. The studs are, they have the serrated shanks that cut into the housing while you're tightening it. And then that way, when you go to put the rear end on, the bolt's not turning on you. So what I do is I tighten this down a while. Some of these are tighter than others. They're not all the same. Now I got that started. Use something with a little bit more leverage. Now the part that's probably the most important part of this is do not use power tools. Impacts are bad for this. They would just destroy the studs. And you don't want to end up having to drive the studs out and then, you know, calling them up and saying, hey, I need new ones because I just broke these. So I put on another nut behind it to help it out, because you don't want to stretch your threads if you can help it. It's not helping out a lot, but every little bit I think makes a little, a difference. And I think this is the stud that you can't get on with a torque wrench because the housing is in the way. There. So incidentally, I don't know what this nut is on the back. The one that's doing most of the work is a grade 8 nut. And the reason why that matters is so that the threads don't stretch and it ends up galling and carrying on. This way nothing got screwed up. And the threads on all these are still good. That way when you torque them down, you'll get a decent torque rather than, some random amount, right? You set it at 35 and it does 25 because of the threads dragging. So that's it for doing this. I saved it to the last one before showing because, in my opinion, watching me do this 10 times would be boring, so I figured once is enough. It got the point across as to how to do it, and there it is. Here's the center section all installed. Got it torqued down. Got the gasket, drying, and fits up nicely. Went in pretty well, and so that's all good. I'm liking the looks of that. So now I'm going to start putting the brakes on and the axles in. Okay, the seal is all in. I drove it in with actually a big socket, and that's seated in there. So the next step is to put the backing plate on and probably hang it by 2 bolts for now. And then I'm going to stab the axle in, and then I'm going to install the retainer, and that'll be on. Okay, here's where to demonstrate the issues at hand, why things won't go together. As you can see, this hole here, this pilot hole, it clears the bearing on the stock Oldsmobile rear end okay. This is nominally 2 3/4, not to the thousandths, but that's the basic size of it. And this bearing size here is 3 1/8, more or less. It's a couple thousandths less than that, but and so that, of course, is the problem, because when you go to put past the axle through this hole, the bearing won't go across it. So I'm going to have to bore this hole out, and that'll be done on my mill drill machine. You don't need the full-size mill or anything, but you do need some fairly decent machinery. Something I'd like to point out is with these 4 bolt holes, you don't want to mess with these if you're going to do this, because as it is, you're already messing with the pilot hole here, and so God forbid if you get this offset a little bit, you want these to keep your backing plate in the right place in relation to your drum, so that you don't have things out of concentricity. So be careful about that. And okay, this here is the setup. I found a defect in all of this. This bore here is too small for the bearing that has to pass through it. This one is 2" 740. So we have a ways to go. I mean, there's a big difference. So if you don't have the ability to do this kind of work, you'll want to order this rear end kit with the brakes included rather than trying to use your old brakes. Because this is, you could auger that out with a flapper wheel or a die grinder or something, but it wouldn't be very pretty when you got done. Okay, here we are. I've been boring for a while. I got, I think, one more cut to go, and then I'll measure, and hopefully this will be it. right, so let's see what the measurement works out to be. Got a little ways more to go. As you can see, the dial hasn't moved. Still doesn't go over it. So I got another 40 thousandths or more to go. So I'll dial this thing out some more, make another cut. This boring head is pretty old and worn out. I got it used, so the quality's not the best, but it's good enough for what I do. I'm not boring, you know, cylinders for engines. This is just a clearance hole, so I could be off by quite a bit and it would be okay. There. And I'll continue with this. Okay, here's the next cut. Hopefully this will be it. All right, now first, what I'll do is probably clean this up with a cartridge roll if necessary. That cutting tool is clearly worn. It appears we're very close. Okay, 45 or thereabouts. Remembering that these kind of calipers are not to the, you know, 4th digit. But that's giving us, that says 23, so 25 thousandths of clearance. That's good. That's a clearance hole, of course. Okay, here we are. We got the hole bored out here to the size that it needs to be. So we're going to test it out on this bearing, make sure that it does go. I'm sure it does, but why don't we just look and see, try it out. There it is. It fits it. It's close, but it gives it a little bit of room. So there it is. This is about right. Generally speaking, clearance is a 32nd, and that's about how much big that is compared to that. All right, why don't I get going on putting all this together. Okay, the seal is all in. I drove it in with actually a big socket, and that's seated in there. So the next step is to put the backing plate on and probably hang it by 2 bolts for now. And then I'm going to stab the axle in, and then I'm going to install the retainer, and that'll be on. Okay, the axle is in. Looks good in there. I got that hole clearance. I got it all to fit together. Everything is very nice. I like it. As you can see, there's the retainer in the back. That's all tucked down properly. It's a little bit of a tight fit. One thing to note, this clearance hole is an extra cost option. And if you look at how close things are, it's a lot nicer having that, though it isn't necessary. You can take the brake shoes off and make room, but that made it much more convenient putting this together. That way I could leave the brake assembly in one piece. Made it easier for me. And so in a moment here, I'm going to test fit the drum on that. All right, here I am with the drum. We'll see how this goes on. I suspect it's going to be great. Look at that. Goes on perfectly. So this is nice. Things are pretty tight. I suspect it's going to have to do with the breaking into the rear end, because the yoke turns a lot harder than, like, say, the yoke on the old rear end. So we'll see how that goes for break-in. Have to follow that procedure. But this is beautiful. Progress has been made.